Good afternoon, and welcome to the Tech Lab Brief, your daily heartbeat of technology, and reminder that reports of the AI apocalypse have been greatly exaggerated. Today is July 23rd, 2026, and this is your PM Brief. Today on the Tech Lab Brief, the story that we'll be exploring is who pays for the AI boom? Now, we know that there are costs associated with AI. Yes, there's the dollar bills, but I guess there's something behind the dollar bills, isn't there? The AI runs, it has to be on some server. There's a lot of talk about these data center things. And today we're going to explore the physical costs of the AI infrastructure, right? So when we hear cost, our mind goes immediately to money, rightfully so. But behind that cost is some thing that has to get paid for right now, and that is the physical cost of how all this AI runs, right? So the capacity of this AI very much depends on who pays for that system beneath it. For the higher performing, higher intelligent AIs, it's going to use more resources in the electricity and the cooling and processing power. And thus, there is an expectation to pay a little bit more for the more intelligent models. But let's not get too sidetracked right now. We're really exploring the physical side of this, right? So, our question for the day, to keep us on track, who pays when an AI data center also needs generation, substations, transmission, and backup power? So we're really getting close to the ground floor here, the electricity aspect of it. So on that note, let's go to our first story here, right? We call this the Ratepayer firewall. And what's happening here is that the White House asks data centers to carry more of their grid costs. Hmm, that doesn't sound so bad, right? These data centers are burning the electricity, so they should pay for everything, right? Not quite. It's not quite that black and white, because the thing is, the actual costs of what's being run, so the data center provides the hardware, right, where everything's getting run, but the actual cost and how much of the physical, I guess, servers that are running, everything runs on a server, it's determined by the software that's running on the server. And there's this concept known as idle time, right? So if you have computers up and running, well, as on the software side of developments, computer technology and development, there's this idea that we have to pay for servers by the hour. And if those servers aren't doing anything, we call that idle time, and you're just paying for the servers to just be on and running, right? But on the other flip side, if the servers are doing massive amounts of work, then you're getting your bang for the buck, right? So let's go back to this idea that servers are only part of the bill. And there's this new thing called the Ratepayer Protection. Well, new, it's been around apparently, but that's been expanded by the White House on this concept of the Ratepayer Protection Pledge, asking operators to fund more generation and grid upgrades rather than the households. Well, that sounds nice, right? The data center should pay for it. But then again, there's the costs that are there's like the tie together with the software side, where the amount of energy burning that the data centers are doing is a function of the software that's running on the hardware. That said, these data centers are developed and built for a certain amount of capacity, so they know ahead of time just how much the computers that they install in the data centers will be available. There's more nuances to the whole thing, but before we get into all that, I want to kind of go back to the base idea of just the power, the raw power that's being consumed, the energy that's required to run these data centers. There's reports that congestion costs have risen approximately 81% over the last year, or in 2025, to $3.2 billion. What that means, your guess is as good as mine, honestly, because there's a lot more context we need to get into to really understand that figure amount of 3.2 billion, but the percentage amount of 81%, that's quite a rise, right? So these are congestion costs of like when there's pricing for power at different rates, right? When it's peak time, there's higher rates, and the power lines are more congested. They're saying that, or our research has shown that the rates have increased by 81%. And now there's plants and substations, transmission, backup. So they're generating energy is more than just, power line, right? There's where the energy gets generated, there's where the energy gets transformed, and there's backup power, and all these things that get involved. So who's paying for all this? And the overall idea is that there's this program called the Ratepayer Protection Pledge. Ratepayer would be, I guess, us, right? We pay the rates of the electricity. I guess if we're tying this all together, right? Data centers cost energy, requires energy, a lot of energy to run. They are hogging up all that energy. And by hogging up all that energy, there's a consequence here where the local residents of the area where the data center comes in actually have to end up paying more for their energy costs, thusly the congestion costs, right? Which went up 81% to $3.2 billion. Is that across the United States? Is that across the state? Or is that across one jurisdiction? Guess we kind of had a little bit of gap on that research, but it's all good. I think the overall idea gets across, right? That data centers come into the areas, they hog up all the energy, and then the local residents are left footing the bill of the higher costs because congestion rates have kicked in. So then your local residents get kind of, what's the word, upset at having to pay these extra rates. And then, there's kind of a next step to, reach out to our local politician and be like, sir or madam, this something about this feels off. It's not what we say, it's how we say it. And let's go into this next segment that we call the local veto, right? So just because there's a lot of money and opportunity, I guess, in this whole AI situation, that doesn't automatically mean that they can kind of do whatever they want, right? We say capital and chips do not guarantee permission. So residents are citing power prices, water, pollution, farmland, and limited transparency as issues that they have with this whole data center build-in situation, right? There's PDF reports that overlap between both the rural Republicans and the urban Democrats. So this is a bipartisan situation that's saying, hey, data centers, this is a bit much right now. And, you can try to make it better, right? You can try to fight the cause and ask our local politicians to do something about this, to not let I guess, have more, what's the word, parameters, restrictions. And the word we use here is friction, right? To delay the permits a little bit. Get rid of these incentives of like bringing them in, because like it's we're at a really tense point here in this late stage of capitalism, where someone can come in with a lot of money and say, hey, I can bring a lot of job growth and opportunity for your area with all this capital. Oh, you don't want to go play by rules? I can take my money elsewhere. That's a recurring theme. I mean, it's always been the case, but now it's become more severe, especially in this AI situation that we're in. And I guess the last point we'll make here, or rather the concluding point we've come up with here, is that community consent can constrain physical expansion, right? So as individuals, as tax-paying citizens, we have a right. We have our rights, and we always have that First Amendment right to express our, actually, my team and I recently went over this, the First Amendment rights that that I strongly believe I know we are practicing to the fullest extent here on the Tech Lab Brief, right? But even as, I guess your everyday citizen, we have the same rights to express ourselves freely. But at the end of the First Amendment is this one clause that says, I have it right here actually. Dramatic reading time. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of people peacefully to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Say it with me, a redress of grievances. What does that mean? Well, it means that we can complain all we want and the government has to listen, or have to. The government has a duty to listen, right? This is America, land of the free. And yes, the government is equally filled with individuals who are going to say, I can think and say whatever and do whatever I want. This is a free country. All those famous last words. This is a free country. And at the very least, can we listen, right? So, again, it's not what we say, it's how we say it. And this whole data center situation is a bit of a mess. And let's figure it out, right? And at the end of the day, if these data center build outs come into a community, especially with the promise of offering more jobs, but then the local community themselves at the other end of it, once they come in and start building out, and the local community is experiencing these grievances enough that they feel that, you know, that they're redresses, honestly, that thank you for the US Constitution for teaching me that word, to redress the grievance, then we got to listen, right? I mean, there's a whole thing about coming into my house, into my land, my backyard, as they say, and promising one thing, coming in with a lot of money and promising one thing, but then delivering another. And I know the lines get really blurry, and every situation is complicated with its own set of circumstances, and redresses, grievances to redress, grievances to interesting. Yes, if we are tax-paying citizens of this fine country, we absolutely have a right to redress our grievances. And on that note, brings us to our next news segment of the baseline problem. Heat and data centers push Texas specifically, power demand to a record. So heat creates peaks, and data centers are raising that baseline of the peak. Texas demand reportedly hit 91,308 megawatts in July 22nd, which is heat-led, and the data centers are adding a persistent load. Time willing, and I'm gonna very much give credit to the individual, to the intern who prepared today's brief very brilliantly, with a little bit of extra, let's say, technologically advanced massaging to get this all ready for a brief, to deliver this brief program as best as we can for our viewers. There's a pattern here, right? There's a story that we're telling here, and I mean, I went on this tangent really just to say, hey, what exactly does 91K megawatts exactly mean, right? Per household, like, we are very much in the situation now at this stage of existing to understand what a watt is. It doesn't matter, like, we are taught it in school, and it is a topic that comes up rather later in normal American education, towards later stage of high school. But watts is like a very fundamental unit of measure, and it's more important than the dollar, right? Because we actually have to think about how comparing the watt to the dollar. But we don't compare watts to dollar. We compare this thing called the watt hour, which, I don't know, maybe that could be a future knowledge segment about what exactly a watt hour is. But I guess tying it back to the dollar bills, we pay, if you look at your energy bill, per kilowatt hour. So when I was young, when I was your age, I remember when I first became a young adult, energy was about 20 cents per kilowatt hour. And let me just give the rough math here. A standard light bulb is 60 watts. I mean, it's much more efficient now, but let's say, right, going back to those older standards, a light bulb is 60 watts. Let's round it off to 100. That's interesting. I'll go back to why that's a strange rounding. But if you ran a light bulb for 1 hour, let's go back. If you ran a light bulb, a 60-watt light bulb for 1 hour, that would be 60 watt hours. So let's round the light bulb to 100 watts. There are such a thing as 100-watt light bulbs. There's also such a thing as 10-watt light bulbs. And yes, we are talking about a straight factor of 10. But you would have to run that light bulb for 10 hours to pay that 1 kilowatt hour. I wonder how many people I just lost by going into that tangent. How many viewers were lost by that tangent? Wow, I went really, really off track just by looking at that number of 91,000 megawatts. And there are solutions to this whole situation, especially in Texas. Texas is burning up. That's really literally, if you can see in the picture, Texas is burning up, and we got to do something about it. We can, and right now it's exploring other forms of electricity, trying to keep the grid stable. If I didn't have the pressure of having to present this whole thing live and a little bit on the spot, I could share some deeper ideas, and just there's ideas right now about how we could solve this. But perhaps let's see this program grow first, and the power of one man's voice could, and perhaps the voice backed by a community of fellow sponsors and members and believers, so to speak, can help amplify said voice. But, well, I mean, Texas is interesting, right? It's huge. There's plenty of land, but at the same time, it's burning up. So this is a high level overview that we're giving here. This is a high level of this whole energy situation. We're starting with power, right? Giving credit to our intern who prepared this brief today, because I was wondering, I gave him. We'll get to him in a little bit, because we're almost done with the news segment that has now reached 20 minutes and a little over. That does kind of put an end to everything. That does kind of tie up the whole point here, doesn't it? Right? Who pays for the AI boom? And it's not super clear. There's money flows in a gajillion directions, and we need to get more clear, right? Tech moves fast, so let's get clear. I'm literally looking at the lyrics for our opening song today, which I promise I don't know if it's going to be the same song every day, and that jingle needs to. Anyway, Texas is huge. There's a lot of money everywhere. We got to build these data centers, or so to speak. There's a perception that we must build more data centers because there is a rising demand for AI. It is driven mostly by software engineering, and there is in my head a need to be more intentional, more, how to say it, more more conscious about when we're just asking AI to write some code for us, because that is the strongest use case right now. And actually, on that note, I guess before we get into the knowledge segment, I have on this piece of paper some commands that were very helpful for me today. It involves video editing because we're doing the brief program. We're trying to generate VODs. We're doing editing, a lot of video production things going on. And, I obviously can appreciate AI to help get these commands, but it is up to me at this point to persist these to my memory, because I will use them again. And maybe that goes a little too far, because who pays for the AI boom? Well, let's try to, at the end of the day, let's try to make sure that the person who pays is the person who uses it is the person who pays, right? And it does start the consumer. We're the ones that are funding this whole AI situation by using the AIs, and then it all trickles down. But then, on top of that, I don't want to be paying out of my pocket for the electricity that I'm, I guess in a sense entitled to as a tax-paying citizen of this modern era. But I'm going a little too far here. Who pays for the AI boom? Let's figure it out. Day one. Well, we had a few segments before, but today was a slightly more focused overview of who pays for the AI boom. And on that note, that brings our news segment to an end. And before I actually officially take away the title, I want to bring back our intern of the day to have prepared this very, very well thought out news segment, Mr. Jaden Ramirez. Jaden Ramirez, I don't want to dox him too bad because I already gave you his last name, but he has been doing a great job here at BK Tech Labs, and today he prepared this brief, and hats off to you, brother. Bah. And on that note, that brings us to today's knowledge segment. Today's knowledge segment is brought to you by BK Tech Labs, ushering in an era of collective intelligence, bringing an end to the gatekeeping of knowledge. Oh, wow. Join us today. Become a member. Shape the narrative. And even today's knowledge segment is going to be cut a little short because I'm looking at the clock. Oh, well, there's 8 minutes. So we're going to do a continuation of this whole who pays for the AI boom with a Excuse me. We're going to call the topic today cost causation. So what causes the cost, right? From a utility standpoint. And I don't believe I don't believe I actually generated this AI. No AI today, just BK. Oh, I think I forgot that part in the opening. Today, anyway, I don't need to get all there. Evaluate utility cost assignment for new demands. And yes, there is power, right? Power is very important. We pay per kilowatt hour. Please keep that in mind. That's a very important thing. Kilowatt hour, and then there's power that generates heat, right? Or rather, it powers whatever the thing it does. Energy powers the electronic devices, the servers, and then there's a lot of heat that gets generated. And to take care of that heat, to handle the heat, we have to do this thing called cooling. And there's a lot of cooling that's involved. And it's tricky because really you need to do the demand for cooling is highest inside the data center, right? I mean, the thing is to run cooling systems, it actually generates heat as well. It basically pushes heat out. It keeps the place cold by pushing the heat out from the inside. So, going back to that thing about Texas burning up, right? Like, it's the cooling is still, the energy actually further contributes to the energy to the heat problem. And it's I guess interesting that yeah, the cooling, it's called cooling, but in fact, if we think about what causes some of the most energy consumption, it is the cooling. So, because I want this to be more interactive than just having my face on the screen. And I do want to use a little visual cues here because it helps. Okay. So, I have an NVIDIA 3090, right? It's a GPU, and I do GPU things on it, right? And this, I believe, when it runs, it's 600 watts, right? And it peaks at 1100 watts, right? So you run this for 1 hour, and then now we're burning, let's say at peak, 1100 kilowatt hours, right? So in the state of New York, approximately, we pay 50 cents per kilowatt hour. It's a little less than that, but pretty much around there. We're paying, in New York City, we pay 50 cents per kilowatt hour. So the question I'll leave off with you, my friends, is if I run this NVIDIA 3090 at peak wattage, peak power consumption for 1 hour, how much does that have to get spent in consumption? On that note, it brings our knowledge segment today to an end. And yes, we will do a quick barcade segment because the barcade needs some love too. I will take this down. Barcade real quick. Tic-tac-toe, 3 in a row. We draw, which is a good outcome. Connect 4. Let's keep oh, it's yellow's turn. You know what? I want to go here. Let's go here. Okay, connect 4. Checkers. This looks pretty much over, but oh, we got a second king. Sure. Let's see if we can bring this to an end. Okay, checkers, and then chess. My goodness, what are we doing here? All right, we're gonna take that bishop because what happened? Why can't I? Oh, I'm in check. Well, take the rook, I guess. Take with the knight because, that way the rook is still backing up this queen. All right, we submit the vote. And on that note, it brings our barcade segment to an end, which also brings our brief to an end. Thank you for watching. Hope you had a good time. We had a great time planning it, and thank you so much to Jaden for helping prepare it. Really helped me focus on the other aspects of of growing our business. And I promise there's a lot of exciting things around the corner. We are up in the socials now, so please check out our stuff. We have VODs, we have shorts, and please please spread that word. Apocalypse, greatly exaggerated. And now your minute of Zen. Counted a little fast in my head. Still gotta get this sound of something alarm up. All right. Have a safe drive. Have a safe ride. Safe travels back home. Enjoy the rest of your day. And we'll see you bright and early tomorrow at 8. Bye now.